Only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Todd Christensen. I'm the Director of Marketing at QSI Corporation, and I'd like to thank you for joining us today for the Introduction to iX webinar. Today we'll demonstrate the power and ease of use of iX software. Just a little housekeeping to the GoToWebinar control panel. If you do not see this expanded window, please select the red arrow button to expand the control panel. This presentation is 50 minutes long, followed by a 10-minute question and answer session. If you have any questions during the presentation, please use this window to type your questions. Now that the housekeeping items are complete, I'd like to introduce you to Axel Gustafsson, an application engineer from Beijer Electronics. He will be in charge of the remainder of our presentation. Axel?
Yes, so my name is Axel Gustafsson, and I'm from Beijer Electronics in Sweden. We are the ones that are behind iX Developer. So the agenda for today's webinar is that we will start with a short introduction of iX Developer, followed by the hardware that runs iX software, and then I will have a live demonstration showing some of the functionality, and we will end off with some conclusions and questions. So iX Developer is a brand new software developed by Beijer Electronics, and we use modern software technologies to make a future-proof product. So iX offers state-of-the-art graphics, and when we say state-of-the-art graphic, we mean some of the points below here, and I will go into a little bit more detail in a few of them. So the first is vector-based graphic. If you don't know what vector-based graphic is, it's a more modern way of illustrating graphics than the old-fashioned pixelated image way. And the way it works is that you have a geometric function or combine of points and lines and curves to build up your image instead of having the fully rendered image. This gives you full control of the size of an object without losing image quality, meaning that you can zoom in to 800% if you want to and still see a perfectly sharp, crystal clear image. Second is Windows Media Objects, which gives you the option to enrich your application with the web browser, PDF viewer, media players, and all these objects are integrated into the iX Developer application, so you won't drag the user out of the experience of the application. You will have the media player or PDF viewer fully integrated in your application. The third point is dynamics, which means that you in runtime can change the properties of an object dynamically. So you can change the color, the size, the position, the visibility of an object, and that way building up a more dynamic application. We in iX build upon our long heritage of building great HMI application software, and we include real solid familiar HMI functionality. And I would like to talk a little bit more on a few of them. So the first is alarm management. Alarms is a crucial part of any HMI application, and the alarm management in iX is very powerful. You can have an alarm trigger an external action. You can change screen, backup data. We have a fully customized alarm viewer that you can add to your screens. We have recipes. Recipes is also very crucial for an HMI application, meaning that you can, in IX Developer, you can create what data items you want to be included in the recipes, and you can even create the recipe data offline when you develop the application. Then in runtime you can load and save or delete the recipes as you want. Data logging. Data logging is another core in an HMI application, and IX uses SQL databases to store the data securely, and it gives you easy access to the data via standard SQL softwares. You can trigger the data logging with different actions such as time-based events or value change. Audit trail is becoming very important in certain industries to be able to track changes made in the application and identify user actions. In IX we store this database in a separate database, and it includes every user action that the user has done, changing tag values or switching screens, logging in as a different user and so on. So you can track changes to a specific user. And remote access. Remote access uses standardized VNC protocols, and meaning that you can be on the road with your smartphone, launching a remote access viewer software, and you will have full control of the HMI application. We also have smart design tool. This is very important because you don't want an engineer to spend a lot of time learning the application. You want him to spend time mastering it instead. And we offer a very friendly environment for development using Microsoft standards for usability. I would like to talk a little bit more about a few of these smart engineering tools that we have. The first is a user-friendly environment. We use Microsoft standards such as ribbon menus and property grids. And if you have used Office 2007 or later, you will feel right at home. We have quick styles that let you customize the look and feel of the project to match your company profile. This shortens development time and creates a cohesive look of the projects you're creating. And simulation. The simulation allows you to check the HMI application against your controller on a PC before deploying it to the HMI. This makes it faster to develop since there is no need to download to an HMI to fully test your application. Adding to this, we have debugging via Microsoft. So you can link up your IX application to Microsoft standard debugging tools such as Visual Studio or CLR Debugger. This is mainly used if you're using some of the more advanced scripting possibilities that we offer. We have expressions, which is an easy way to do C# scripting without the hassle of doing most of the coding around the expressions. What it is a one-line return statement for C# code. And this allows you to do higher level math functions or extracting a bit out of a word, for example, in a very easy way. And we have import-export functionality, and this allows you to export data to a CSV or Excel file. It also makes it easy for you to move your PLC tags from your PLC software into IX Developer. And IX developer has been developed from the ground up to be a very open platform. And we have many things that we think make IX developer open, and I will talk a little bit more about a few of them. So you can, first is that you can choose your hardware platform. So you can either use the compact IX panels or you can use a third-party industrial PC. So you have full control on what platform you're developing for. Next is OPC. OPC is a standard in PLC communication, and this allows you to get open communication with your PLC, or you can connect the IX application to an external OPC server. The last is C# scripting. C# scripting in IX gives the developer access to almost limitless possibility when it comes to functionality. IX does not limit the developer to what he can do, but rather gives him the freedom to do whatever he wants. The C# code is compiled side by side with the native IX code and gives the same CPU priority. This ensures maximum performance of the custom code. This is a great way of differentiating your application from your competitors. PLC connectivity is, of course, the most important thing when it comes to an HMI application. Without the PLC communication, you can't do that much. And Beijer Electronics has been developing HMI's application for a long time. We support most of the common PLC manufacturers and protocols. So we have Allen Bradley, Beckhoff, CAM, J1939, GE, Fanuc, Mitsubishi PLCs, Modbus, Siemens. So most PLCs manufactured out there we support. We also have something that we call multi-controller application, and this allows you to have the same HMI application and connect that to multiple PLCs. I won't go that much in depth with this. We have an intermediate webinar coming up in 1 week where I will go in more detail on how to configure and how to use multi-controller application. I will talk a little bit on the basics. So you can have an HMI application that you have configured to work with several different PLCs. And in runtime you can connect a Mitsubishi Q CPU, for example. And then you can just exchange this PLC for a Siemens S7-1200, for example. And just with a push of a button in the HMI application, you can switch the entire application to work with the Siemens instead of the Allen Bradley. Or you can have all three of them connected at the same time and use data exchange to move data from the different PLCs, and having the IX panel or the IX software as a gateway in between. So the hardware that runs IX software is from Beijer Electronics. We have the IX panel, which is a Windows CE based touch screen from 3.5 inch up to 15 inch. We have keypads from 5.7 up to 10. It's a powder-coated aluminum IP66 protection. It has a operating range of 0 to 50 degrees centigrade. We also have IX Panel Pro, which is a embedded PC running Windows XP embedded with touchscreens from 12 inch up to 19 inch, which offers IP65 protection. And from QSI we have the Q-term panels, which run Windows CE. They are touchscreens from 7 to 12 inch. They are NEMA 4X and UL listed and CE certified for Class 1 Div 2 for hazardous areas. They have an extended temperature range from -30 up to 70 degrees. So for your really rugged applications, you can use the QSI panel. So I will now move over to a live demonstration on iX Developer. And what I will do is I will first go over some of the user interface elements in iX Developer. Then I will create an application with some of the standard and basic functionalities. And I will also run and test the application using the built-in simulation tools. So I will now switch over to iX Developer. And let's see here. So when you're creating a new application, you will be started with this screen. So you select which hardware you are targeting, so either a PC application or an iX panel or a QSI panel. And when you select the application or the hardware platform, you will have a short description on the hardware, so the resolution, some of the communication ports. So in this demonstration, I will use a QSI QTerm A7, which is a 7-inch touch screen. The next thing you will need to do is you need to create your, or select which controller you're using, what PLC you are communicating to. Here you can see the full list of PLCs that we support. So you have Allen Bradley, ABB, Beckhoff, Mitsubishi, Siemens. For demonstration purposes, I will use what we call the demo driver. And this is an internal controller that basically has a few counters. Easy way to play around with the software and see that stuff happens without you actually needing to communicate with a PLC. The last thing you need to do is give it a name. So give it a name and finish. So what we're doing now is that iX Developer is starting up. It's building everything you need for starting the application. So it's building the screens, functionality. So what we have here is that on top here we have the ribbon menu. And this is a ribbon menu is a Microsoft standard, and it is a context-aware menu system. So depending on what object I have selected, I will see different options in the ribbon menu on top here. And I can always change what I will see by switching between the different tabs up here. To the left, I have the Project Explorer. And the Project Explorer is where you will see all your screens that you're creating, as well as the added functionality that you can add to the project, such as alarm servers, tags. You will see recipes. You also have multi-language here. To the right, we have the property grid and the component library. The component library is built-in finished components that we're shipping with iX, which you can use in your application. These are things such as buttons. We have some predefined pictures, some images for building up a process. It's very useful for creating application fast. You can also create your own components by copy-pasting it into the component library. So I will now start creating the application. And what I will start with is creating a background screen. So this is what I will use later on to connect every other screen to, and I will use it for navigation and showing information that I want to have on every screen that I'm using. So the goal here is to create a background screen for navigation. So I will add a couple of buttons. These buttons will be used for screen navigation. So I just drag the button out, and if I go to the General tab in the ribbon menu, I can change the style of the button. So we have some predefined styles here, and I will select Chrome. And if I want further customizability of the object, I can go into the property grid to the right here and actually change, for example, the corner radius individual on each corner. Like this. And in this application, I will create 5 screens. So I would like to have 5 identical buttons side by side. To do this, I can select the button, right-click, and go into Create Series. I can select here how many columns I want, how many rows, the spacing, and which direction. So if I click OK now, I've now created 5 identical buttons. And I want to have a nice working area, so I drag that across. And we have something that we call quick styles, which are predetermined visual styles that we have, and with the colors and gradients and such. So I just select one, and I want to give it some color, so I will change the fill of the buttons. So I do that up here in the ribbon. I just select the shape fill I want to use. And if you want to change the properties of multiple objects at the same time, you can just select all the objects that you want to change. And now you can change the common properties of these objects at the same time. So making the font a little bit bigger, changing the color, making it bold. I want to change the background to black. I want to add a digital clock. So up here in the objects, I can scroll up and down, or I can expand the view to get all the objects. I want to add a digital clock. So I'll select it, drag it out, and change the color. So this will be my background screen, and I will use this on all the other screens I'm creating. So I will create a new screen. So I click Add Screen up in the ribbon menu, rename it, and I will call this one Objects. And to select that I want to use a background screen, I go up again to the ribbon menu and select what screen I would like to use. So select the background screen. You now see I'm having the background screen in a different layer here. And I want in my application, when I click the different buttons, to jump to the specific screens. So if I go to the background screen and select the button, I can go up here in the ribbon menu to the actions and select that I want to have a screen jump. So select on click action, I select I want to show screen, and I select which screen I would like to show. I would like to show the objects screen. And I change the name of the button to Objects. That. And to change what screen should be shown when I start the application, I can just right-click on the screen and set as Startup Screen. So let's add some objects. I will add, we have slider objects that I will add. Once again, I just add this. And all these objects are vector objects. So it doesn't matter how big I make this object, it will look really nice anyway. And I can show this by zooming into it. In the slider, I can zoom into 800% and I will still not see any pixels on it. So that's the slider. Let's add a progress bar. We also have snap lines in IX. So when you resize an object and you approach the side of another one, you will get a snap line. So it's very easy to make objects the same size. Let's add a circular meter as well. And all the objects in IX comes with different styles. So if I select all three of the objects and go to the General tab, I can change the visual style. We ship IX with 5 different styles. Black, which is the default. We have Classic, Chrome, Eclipse, and Vintage. I like Chrome quite a bit, so I will use that. So now we added the objects, but they don't do that much because we haven't connected them to any communication tag to the PLC. And to do this, you can go up here in the ribbon menu into the tag security part and select a tag. So here I have a few options. I can either just type in a name of the tag if I know it or I want to create it, or I can click the drop down, get a list of all the different tags that have been created in the application. Since this is a new application, we don't have any tags created except the first one, the standard one. So I want to add a new one. I can just click Add, Tag 2, and I want to change the name to Objects Tag. So what I now have done is connected all these 3 objects to the same tag. So let's compile and run the application and test it and see if it works. So just clicking the small play button up here, we are now compiling the application, creating all the DLLs, everything surrounding the application that is needed to run it. We're actually compiling an executable file that we are then running. The first time we're validating and compiling, it will take a little bit longer than the other time because we're creating all these DLLs for the first time. The other times you're doing it, it will not take that long because you're only compiling the changes. So this is the simulated object. You see we have the clock, we have our navigation buttons up here, and we can drag the slider here. Here you can see the object is updating. So that's some of the objects that we have. So I will now create a new screen. So once again, I go up here and click Add Screen and rename it. And on this screen, I will show trends. So I'm renaming it, and once again, I'm selecting the background screen. And to add the trend, I add the trend object here. So I select it and I drag it across. So now if I go to the General tab, I can configure the general properties of this object. So I can change the time scale, sampling interval. The default is 10 seconds, but I will change it to 1 second. You can change the style of it. It has the same styles as the other objects has. It will stick with black. You can select if it's a historic trend or if it's a real-time trend. And here you can add the curves that you are showing in the trend. So let's click here and add a few trends. Let's add 4 curves. You can change the curve names if you want, but I will stick with the default. And now you're connecting these to tag. So let's start here, curve 1, curve 2. So you can see here, instead of using the drop down, I'm just typing now, and if this tag I'm typing is not included in the tag list, it will automatically create a new tag with this name. And you can change the color. These are the default colors that we have, but you can, if you want to, go into more colors. Have a greater selection, or you can go into custom and actually type in the RGB value. So these tags are now, they are treated as internal tags because we have not connected them to any physical address down in the PLC. And to do this, you go to the tags function here on the left side. So if I go there, you will see all the tags I've created, and here you can see what these tags are connected to in the controller. You can see it's blank here, and if it's blank, it means that you are not communicating to the controller, and these are only internal tags. So if I knew the physical address in the PLC, I could just type it here. If I don't know this, I can go up here in the controllers, select the controller, and go to settings. This is where you would configure the controller, the driver. So in this case we have a few counters. I will change how they are counting, so we will have some different values. And if you don't know what these settings do, or you don't know what the physical addresses are down in the PLC, you can click the help file here, and it will show a help file for this specific driver, in this case the demo driver. And it includes how you would connect to the PLC, what cable you need, and what settings you can do. And in addressing you will see what devices exist in the PLC that we can communicate to, and what ranges and so on. And it's a very simple demo driver, so we have some analog devices, some counters, and some digital devices. So from the help file I know that the counters are C0, C1, C2, C3. And if you were to enter an address that doesn't exist, you will get a warning here. So let's go back to trends, and I will add a function to this trend which is called trend legend. In order to do this, I will need to add a button to trigger this function. And once again, I drag it across and change the name of the button, trend legend. And up here in the ribbon menu, I have actions. So if I select it, this is where I selected show screen for, but I will go down to trend and click show trend legend. And I select I want this to be shown for trend 1. And the last thing I need to do is go to the background screen and change the name of this navigation button here and add a screen jump action. So I will jump to the correct screen. So let's run that and see what's happened. So we're compiling. This time it goes much faster because we don't need to create everything that's around. Go to trend, and here you can see the trend, and we have the trend curves. And if I hit this trend legend here, you'll see we have an orange bar here, and this can be used to get the exact value at a specific time. And you can also hide the curves in runtime if you want to. That's quite useful. Let's go back and continue. And the next thing that I will show is recipes. So let's create a new screen, call it recipe screen. And once again, I select the background screen, and the recipes needs to be added to the functions area down here. So to do this, I would right-click on the Project Explorer and click add recipe. Now we added a recipe called recipe 1. I can rename this if I wanted to. Call it recipe 1 test. And now I need to add what data items I want included in the recipe. So I click add, and it will create a recipe item with a name. I can change the name if I wanted to, but I will leave it default. And I select a tag. This can be any tag, but I will call it tag 1. Then I will add 4 recipe items. So in tag 2, tag 3, and tag 4. And what I now can do is I can create the runtime data for this recipe. If I click the runtime data tab, click add, we will now create a single recipe for these recipe items. So I will give it first a name, so call it all 100, and change the values here, 100, 100, 100, and let's create another one, call it all 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. So these recipe data will be, you can use this when you're running the application. So to actually show this, we will go to the recipe screen here and we will add analog numerics showing these different tags. If you remember correctly, we had tag 1. You can just control click and drag on an object and you will create a copy of it. Once again, we have the snap line and spacing, so you will snap into place when it's close to another object. And change the connected tags, tag 2, tag 3, tag 4. So this is only to be able to show the recipe when we load and save the recipe. So now we need to add some buttons to actually do the saving and loading. And to do this, I could add another button, go to the action menu and select the action, or I can go into the component library here and select one of the predetermined buttons that we have. So if we go down here to buttons in black, for example, or let's select buttons, we have some different styles. So let's see here, we have load recipe, we have save recipe. This saves me a lot of time because I don't need to write in the text, I don't need to add a nice symbol to the button. You can just use these predetermined ones, or if you have some of your own, you can just add them to the component library. Let's just double check that the actions are correct. We have save recipe, and we need to select which recipe we would like to save. So recipe 1 test. Here you can select that you want to save a specific recipe data set. Or if you don't select anything here, you will be presented with a dialog and you can select in runtime. So we will leave it blank. The same for load. We'll change it to load recipe and recipe 1 test. And to end off, we go to the background screen. As before, we change the name of this navigation button and the action for it. So show screen and recipe screen. Let's compile. So let's jump to the recipe screen and let's load a recipe. So click the load button and you select one of the recipes, so all 100 for example, and load it. You can see it's updating here. You can go in and change the value and save it and give it a name. So I'll give it test. And let's load another one. And another one. So that's recipes. Very simple to configure and very simple to use. The next thing I would like to show is security. So again, we add a new screen, give it a name, and select the background screen. And the security, the same way as we did with recipes, it is configured in the functions menu here. So we just click the security function. And the way security works in IX is that we have users and user groups. And each user that you create will be connected to a user group or several user groups. Then when we connect objects on the screen to security, we connect it to the group. So this gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to security in IX. So by default, we have a user called administrator. I will create a new one called Axel. Give it a password. For easy, we give it a 1, and the same for administrator. And I would like Axel to be part of the user group operators. And if you want to add more groups, you can do this in the Groups tab up here. And you can see what what users are connected to what groups. We will stick with the default groups in this demo. So now we have the users and the user groups. Now we need to configure some of the objects with security. So let's go back to the security screen and add a couple of objects. So I would like to add 2 sliders. Once again, we have the snap lines to put them side by side. And let's connect these to a tag. So add a tag, call it security tag. Now we need a way to log in and log out as the specific users. So once again, I will go into the component library and add login, log out. Let's double check that the actions are correct for this. So we have the login action and we have the logout action. Now to see what we can do with the security, we select the top object here and we select which group should be able to access this object. So the top one here I would like administrators to be able to access. And here I select what should happen if this if a user from this group is not logged in. So I have a few options here. I will select hidden. So when nobody from the administrator group is logged in, nobody else will see this object. Into the bottom one here, I want operators, and I would like it to be disabled. So nobody can use it, but it can still see it. So let's go back to the background screen, and for security, the screen jump action. So let's run it. So jump to the security screen, and you can see here we're not logged in as any user right now, so the administrator access won't be shown. So if we log in here as administrator, use the password 1. We're now logged in. The object is visible. We can change the value. If you log out again, it's invisible. Now log in as Axel. We can now use the bottom object, but we cannot see the top object. So this gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to security in your application. And the last thing I would like to show is alarms. So alarm screen. Select the background screen. So the alarms are configured the same way as security and the functions on the left in the Project Explorer. So if you select this, you now configure the alarms that we are going to have in the application. So each alarm has a name, a text. So this is an alarm. We select the tag. In this case, I would like to add alarm tag. Then we have a condition for the alarm. This will be an analog alarm, so the condition will be greater than 90. And then we have some other configuration we can do on the alarm. So now we have configured the alarm. We will generate an alarm when this condition is met. And to actually see the alarms, we need to add an alarm viewer. And this is done up here. We add the alarm viewer object, and we just drag that across. If we go to the General tab, we can fully customize it, so we can remove buttons that we don't use. We can select what columns that we would like to show. You can have filtering, so you'll only see active alarms or inactive alarms. But we will keep this default for now. And then we need a way to trigger the alarm. And in this case, I will just use a slider and connect it to the alarm tag. So what will happen now when we trigger the alarm, we will see it here. But in many cases, you would like something to happen when you have the alarm. For example, you want some more information. So to do that, I would add an alarm information screen. And I would add a new screen, and I will call it alarm info. On this screen, I don't want to add the background screen because I want this to be a smaller screen. I want it to be a pop-up screen. So I go to the General tab and select that I want this to be a pop-up screen. And add a name, title for the title bar. And I can select where on the screen I would like this to open. Let's see here, we would like to be red, so you get notice, and add some text to it. And let's see, multi-line, and there is an alarm. And is an alarm to sorry for that. This. Now I need to configure it so it's shown when we have the alarm. So I go back to the alarm server. On this alarm, I go to the right here. I have actions. And I can trigger action on different things. So alarm acknowledged, alarm active. In this case, I will have it on alarm active. So I click add. I would like to show a screen. And alarm info screen. This can be any screen. You could show any of the screens I've already created. In this case, I want the alarm info screen to show. And I can also add other actions if I wanted to have multiple actions on the same event. Let's hit OK. And for the final time, we go to the background screen. And we alarm, call it alarm. And have an action on it. Show the alarm info screen. No, sorry, the alarm screen. So let's compile for the last time. And I will head off into the conclusion and question part of the webinar. So let's see here. Jump to the alarm screen. Let's trigger the alarm. So the alarm is triggered. We get the pop-up screen. If you close it, you can see here we have the alarm. It's active, when it was activated, and the text. I can acknowledge it. And when it's not active anymore, I can clear it. So that's the small live demonstration for today. We'll now go back to the PowerPoint with the conclusions. So IX software, it's very powerful yet simple to use software for rapid application design and testing. It's easy to connect and to control your PLC. We have hardware for any application from HMI panels to full-fledged industrial PCs. We have terminals in size 3.5 inch to 15 inch, PCs up to 19 inch. We have hardware for any environment with the QSI, Q-term panels. And we have demonstration panels available. And you can try IX Developer for free on ix.qsicorp.com. And the next webinar will be an intermediate webinar, and it will be in 1 week's time at the same time. And we will cover multi-controller applications, external PC server, alarm distribution server, and audit trail. And I will now hand over to Todd. Or first, the resources that we have available for you. We have me as a presenter. I'm Axel Gustafsson, application engineer from Beijer Electronics. You can reach me on the email address below for technical questions, ix.support@qsicorp.com. Sales is ix.sales@qsicorp.com, or the phone number is listed. Or you can go to the website at ix.qsicorp.com for information and free software download. Or you can go to BeijerElectronics.com. And we will send out this presentation and the application I just made to you as attendees. Or how will we do that, Todd?
I'll address that.
Yeah, so I'll now hand over to Todd again, and he will take it from here.
Thank you, Axel. We do have one question here from Jeff. He says, this application looks a lot like Bear Info Designer. If I have an app with tags, etc., can I import it into this IX software to port it to a panel PC?
So with IX Developer, we have import possibilities from Information Designer or eDesigner. So you would get there about 90% of the way. Since this is a new software, there are some functionalities that doesn't correspond exactly, but you will get there most of the way. You will get in your tags, everything like that will be imported. So you only need to do some minor tweaks to the application to get it to work.
Okay, Ben asks, what limitations does the free demo have?
So the free demo doesn't have any limitations except that it only runs for 30 days.
Wonderful. Any other questions that want to post? Go ahead now. A copy of this PowerPoint, the sample application that Excel built today, and a recording of this presentation will be on ix.qsicorp.com in a couple of hours. So you can go ahead and download that. And also, we're going to be sending out an invitation to attend the intermediate webinar scheduled a week from today at the same time here in the next day or so. So we have a couple of other questions coming in. Let's see. Jeff asks, what does it do regarding screen resolution on an import?
If you have an information designer application, what will happen when you import it, you will create an application, a corresponding application with the same panel. So you have an Exter T100, you will get an IX panel T100 which has the same resolution. What you then would do is that you would change that to a PC application, and you can select what resolution you would like to use. And it will do its best to resize the objects to fit the higher resolution of the EPC. Some objects you will need to tweak a little bit to get them to look right. You might need to change some font sizes, but the majority of the work will be done by the IX developer for you.
Gary asks, what are options for managing many more screens, say 20?
You have the same options as I just used. You will have the screens on the left side. You also have, can you see my screen? Yeah. So you have what we call the navigation overview. So just put that up, and the navigation browser. So this gives you a graphical overview of the screens and how they are connected to each other. And from this view I can add new screens, I can create new block jumps, so I can just drag from one to another here, and I will create a new button for a screen jump, and I can do the same way the other way around, or from screen to screen like this. You can see the relationships between the different screens.
Excellent, Excel. That seems to be all of our questions. We've got about 2 more minutes. If you have any other questions, go ahead and feel free to type them in, and we'll have Excel address those. If not, once again, we'd like to thank everybody for attending today, and I hope you'll attend our intermediate webinar a week from today. Let's see. I do have another one coming in from Gary. Can I have multiple backgrounds?
Yes, you can layer as many background screens on top of each other as you want. So to do that, you would add, I will now destroy this application a little bit, but if I create a new screen, so instead of adding the background screen as my background screen, I can add, for example, the object screen as my background screen. So now I would have 2 layers of background screen on top of each other. It's a very useful way if you need to do some complex navigation or want to have several layers to have the easier upkeep of your application.
Wonderful. That's all the time we have today, and once again, thank you for attending, and go ahead and download the application as well as the sample application that Excel built today, the PowerPoint, and we'll see you a week from today.
And one more thing, if you have any questions after this, just shoot me an email. I will be glad to help you with any questions.